Hello Pokemon fans, welcome back. I am Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and today we are going back into our week of Nationals top 8 deck profiles with another addition here. This is a Seismitoad variant that was built by Kristy Britton, who piloted the deck to a top 8 finish at the 2015 Pokemon US National Championships. So let's go ahead and jump right in here and take a look at what this deck is. It's a little bit different from your conventional Toad deck. I really have to say I'm a little bit impressed with the way that this thought process had worked out once I got to take a look at the deck list itself. So we're going to start off here with 4 copies of Seismitoad EX. Let's put that full art up front because, let's be honest, full arts always look better. 4 copies of Seismitoad EX, your main attacker, only for Quaking Punch, 30 damage, and lock out your opponent's items on their next turn for a double colorless energy. So Seismitoad EX obviously dominating the game. Lots of Seismitoad at the tournament. Not quite as much as I expected, but it still did well in the long run. This is a Seismitoad Bats variant, so we have 4 copies of this Zubat that has the free flight ability. If this Pokemon has no energy attached to it, it has no retreat cost from Plasma Storm. These are definitely the most expensive common cards you'll come across right now because they're so valuable with all of the decks that utilize the bats. This is the one you're going to want, though, more than any of them. Fortunately, I held on to my Plasma Storm Zubats. Alright, next up here we have 3 copies of the Phantom Forces Golbat with the Sneaky Bite ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you would place 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. 3 copies of that Golbat just to do 20 extra damage just by evolving it. Pretty plain and simple. Seismitoad needs damage multipliers, so it works out really well to have bats to add extra damage. 20 damage is better than nothing, and when you evolve into Crobat, you can use Surprise Bite. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you replace 3 damage counters, so now you're doing an additional 30 every time you evolve a Golbat into a Crobat. So if you have a Zubat in play and a Golbat in play, you can evolve into Golbat for 20 and a Crobat into 30. It's just insane how much damage can get racked up this way. Now, one thing that's slightly different about this build is the addition of Manectric EX. The main purpose for this is to use Assault Laser for a lightning and a colorless. If your bonus active Pokemon has a Pokemon tool card attached to it, it does 60 more damage. So you could hit 120 for 2 energy. Pretty crazy. Not to mention you've got Seismitoad back there to back you up and do an additional maybe 50 damage with a Muscle Band. There you go, magic number of 170, which is the total HP of a lot of these Pokemon in the game these days. So definitely hit some magic numbers with the EX, Manectric EX, I should say. So we'll place that down. If you hadn't noticed, this is the BatManToad deck. Yeah, cheesy, but whatever. We also have 2 copies of Shaymin EX. This is another draw support helper with the ability set up. You may place this Pokemon on your bench and draw up to 6 cards into your hand. Shaymin EX is a very good card to have in this deck, just in case you need to get a hold of some extra resources and you don't want to waste your supporter for the turn, or maybe you did already and just didn't hit what you needed. We also are going to jump into our supporter lineup here with 4 copies of Professor Sycamore. Discard your hand, draw 7 cards. Still the best draw supporter in the game, always will be as long as it's in the format, which it will be for quite a while because it did get a reprint not too long ago. 3 copies of N. Both players shuffle their hand into their deck, draw the number of cards relative to the remaining prize cards on each side of the field. So N obviously is a card that didn't even need to be explained, but I'm going to do it anyways. Going to be around for just a short time longer, more than likely. Same thing with Chorus, not around too much longer, but you can shuffle your hand into your deck and draw a number of cards equal to the number of benched Pokemon on both sides of the field, yours and your opponent's. So there's that, and that gives you your total of 9 draw supporters, and of course you have access to Shaymin as well, and VS Seekers, as you can see in a moment. So we got 2 copies of Lysander here. Bring anything up off the bench into the active position that you might want there instead of what's in the active. Always great. And of course we've got 1 copy of Xerosic to discard a Pokemon tool or special energy card attached to a Pokemon in play, whether yours or your opponent's. Works really well to get rid of Headringers, works well to get rid of your opponent's tools and special energy as well. We We have one copy of AZ because it's always good to pick up a Toad that's about to die, or your bats to pick them up and put them into your hand so you can evolve again and start dealing damage. One copy of AZ, get it back with VS Seekers. If you lock your opponent out of items, there's no way you're going to have to worry about it unless you're playing another Toad deck. So getting it back is usually not an issue, so you only play one. 4 copies of Ultra Ball, discard 2 cards, and find a Pokemon in the deck that you want. This works really well to make your hand size small, to make Shaman's ability work that much better in your favor. What would a Toad deck be without 4 copies of the most annoying card? Well, next to Wailord. Hypnotoxic Laser. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. Flip a coin. If heads, it's also asleep. It's been a long time since I profiled a Toad deck. Almost weird to say those words. Hypnotoxic Laser, also going to be short-lived. Not too much longer of a lifespan on that either, as it probably will rotate. Next up here, we've got 3 copies of VS Seeker, as I said, to get back any of these supporters that you might need, whether it be a draw supporter, Xerosic, AZ, Lysander, whatever you might need. Get it out of the discard pile after it's been used. We also have 3 copies of Super Scoop Up. This is good for picking up your Toads that are about to die as well, and of course also the bats, so you can start dealing more damage by evolving them each turn. That way you can do 20 more damage here, 30 more damage here, and of course you got your Quaking Punch that's dealing 30 to 50, and, well, I mean, what can I say? It's the best way to recycle your bats just to keep them going, and it's the best way to keep yourself from losing 2 prize cards to your opponent in a time of need. One thing that's odd here is that there's only 2 copies of Muscle Band. Usually you see 3 to 4 in a Toad deck, but apparently there's only enough room in this deck for 2, but it did the job for her, so can't say anything there. So 2 copies of Muscle Band, deal 20 damage extra on top of whatever the base attack is. This is your main key to work with Manectric's second attack. Attach a Headringer to your opponent's Pokemon EX, and they have to attach 1 more additional colorless energy more to attack. So that makes all their attacks 1 energy more. Quaking Punch for your opponent would make it 3 energy instead of 2. Assault Laser would be 3 energy instead of 2. Overrun would be 2 instead of 1. You get the idea. You know how Headringer works by now if you've been in the TCG for more than a year. Headringer, not a card you see a whole lot of anymore, but it's still really, really good. Now this is where I have to say I gotta give a lot of credit to Kristy on this, because this is pretty ingenious. When everyone fills up their A-Spec spot, it's usually going to be one of the following: Computer Search, Scoop Up Cyclone, or sometimes Dowsing Machine. Dowsing Machine not so much with the addition of VS Seeker, so it's not quite as big of a deal. But Kristy goes the opposite direction, knowing that Toad needs more damage multipliers and can't really access all these Hypnotoxic Lasers anymore with the Ban of Trump card. She threw in a Rock Guard. What? Oh my gosh, what a smart play this is. Rock Guard, if this Pokemon this card is attached to is your active Pokemon and is damaged by your opponent's attack, even if that Pokemon is knocked out, place 6 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. Whoa, who saw this one coming? Who even remembers this card? Plasma Freeze. I can't tell you the last time I saw a Rock Guard used in competitive play, if ever for that matter. But it was a very smart play, great meta call, as fewer people are using Startling Megaphone. So that 60 damage makes a huge difference in addition to what you're already doing with Toad. Very, very smart play. I have to commend Kristy on that. Onto our stadiums here, we've got 2 copies of Burbank City Gym. Put 2 more damage counters on poison Pokemon between turns. So let's look at it this way. You're Quaking Punching for 30. You got a Muscle Band, that's 50. You got Hypnotoxic Laser for another 10, another 20, another 30. So now you're dealing 80 damage. And then on your opponent's next turn, they're hitting you with a Rock Guard, making it 140. And then you can evolve into a Crobat and just knock it out and bring something else up and attack it. I mean, what a smart move. I'm just gonna stop there. Really, really great. I love this deck. Even though I hate Toad, this deck, I love the revolving around the Rock Guard. We have 1 copy of Silent Lab here as well. Each basic Pokemon in play has in each player's hand, and each player's discard pile has no abilities. This shuts down a lot of things like your opponent's Shaman, which can be devastating, as well as many other Pokemon that have abilities that are basics. That's it for our Pokemon, supporters, items, and stadiums. So now we're going to get into the energy count, which is, again, straightforward for a Toad deck. What more do you expect than 4 DCE and 4 basic lightning energy for your Manectrics. Obviously this deck worked really well for her. I can see how it's synergistic, works together, does the right amount of damage, the multipliers add up, the numbers add up, this math is very, very smart and on point. I give this deck a 9 out of a 10 just because I don't like Toad. Otherwise I give it 10 out of 10. Seriously, I really do like this deck a lot for the reasons of the smart math behind it all. It just makes so much sense. I mean, that's what you have to do to become a great player in this game, is to think smart and think about ways that you're going to be able to hit all those magic numbers to knock out Pokemon. This deck obviously worked very, very well for her, but she is also a very skilled player, one of the top tier players in Pokemon right now in the United States. I've actually faced her before at a regionals. I think the very first regionals I went to, I faced up against her, and she beat me pretty bad. But then again, that was also when I first started back into Pokemon, so who knows. Anyways, guys, that's the deck. This is the top 8 deck that worked for her. Try it out for yourself, guys. See what you think of it. Make your changes. Do whatever you want to it. But this is the deck that placed in the top 8 for Kristy Britton. I congratulate you on that performance and also on a very well-built deck. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more TCG content in the future as we continue our week of Nationals deck profiles for the top 8 competitors. In the next few days or so, we're going to wrap things up and move on to one special surprise here at the end. So, until next time, guys, I'm Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries.